Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, we did it! Thanks to the success of my last video, I am now officially monetized. I just want to thank each and every one that is near and dear to my—
Cut the shit!
Okay then, you're right, enough of this sappy stuff. Time to get back to the bloody stuff. Behold, the underrated horror movies of 2024. Now, before we get started, I want to be clear, these movies did not make my cut for the list of the best horror movies of the year for very specific reasons that I will go over. Though, I still think these movies have some merit, so I'll try to keep away from spoilers as much as I can. My overall feeling after watching all of these movies are pretty much the same.
Not bad.
I'll also be highlighting the good of these movies and going over what's holding them back from unleashing untold horrors from the great beyond. I'll also go over who I think would like these movies. So let's get ready to bleed. Destroy all neighbors.
So you've killed somebody. Relax. Just need to know how to get rid of a body.
Hello, Willie.
Destroy all neighbors sounds ridiculous. And it kinda is, but in a fun way. I did a longer review on the movie and I'll link it, but there's no spoilers in it cause, well, I obviously liked it. And you know who else would like this movie? Fans of Creepshow.
I beat you!
It's cheesy, it's over the top, it's fun, it's funny. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a slam dunk, mostly cause it's not really trying to be. A kinda loser guy is at his wit's end getting constantly shit on in every aspect of his life, and when his neighbor, who by the way looks like an extra from fucking Ernest Scared Stupid, like, it's not trying to blow you away with the acting or the story or the cinematography, and honestly, that's okay. Not every movie has to be some Oscar-level piece of art. Some of it just fits nice and comfortably in the fun section. So if you're in the mood to watch a fun, violent movie with lots of practical effects, Destroy All Neighbors will give you that fix, quick, fast, and in a hurry. ISS.
We're evolved species.
ISS is about, well, an international space station. Oh yeah, I know what acronyms are.
Bullshit!
Shut up. Let's move on. ISS is about two teams of people sharing a space station. One team of Russians and one team of Americans. The inevitable nuclear war starts while the team is in the station, and of course tensions are high because the world seems to be ending beneath them. Personally, I think it's a bunch of baloney. The idea of nuclear mass death is just absurd. I mean, we all know the universe will end when Azathoth, the blind idiot god, awakes from his slumber and we all blink out of existence and will not return until he slumbers again.
Huh?
Don't worry about it. ISS is a thriller that definitely has a few thrills up its sleeves that I think a lot of people will enjoy. I have a slightly longer review of it that I did earlier this year. Feel free to check that out and subscribe, you lovely devils. What is holding ISS back is the writing. I know easier said than done, but I was expecting much more clever writing, more backstabs, more schemes, more miscommunication, more foreshadowing, and whatnot. I think this will fit well in a group or a couple setting where some people present want to watch a thriller with not a lot of gore in it. Immaculate.
It's a miracle. You are with child.
Immaculate is the Sydney Sweeney nun movie about an immaculate conception. Not to be confused with the First Omen starring Nell Tiger Free, a nun movie about an immaculate conception.
Wait a minute!
What's even crazier is that they both came out in, I think, the same month. Just remember, one's got a blonde and the other a brunette, and both are out of your league.
Ow!
Immaculate's perks, sorry boys, not talking about titties, The perks are the standout performance of Sydney Sweeney, especially in the end. I want to give this chick extra props because apparently she really pushed for this movie to get made because too many complications kept happening when she wasn't on the front lines. Eventually, she just took a page out of Homelander's book.
Fuck it. I'll do it myself.
You do get a few aspects about the nunnery and the setup that are unique that you won't see in the First Omen. What I think is holding this movie back is the kind of secret coven of nuns that never gets explored more, even though they would be the most interesting thing to get into. Some deaths happen too easily, and there's a spike from Christ's crucifixion, and even though this thing should be obviously kept at the Vatican, a few times during the movie, people touch it with their bare hands.
What? Oh, come on!
Yeah, every time it happened, it really took me out of the movie. Also, there's a scene where a bad guy gets two-faced and it looks corny as hell. The kind of people who may like this movie are the ones who like Sydney Sweeney. I honestly can't think of a particular group or subgenre that is really highlighted in this movie's highlights. If you watch movies for individual actors and Sydney Sweeney gets your motor running, go for Immaculate. You'll never find me.
Did you tell someone you were coming here?
You'll Never Find Me is definitely a hidden gem. Yes, it's on the underrated list and not the best of list, but this came up much earlier in the year under the radar, and I think it's a shame. It's a very contained movie about this Australian in a trailer on a stormy day. He gets a visitor and they can't help but remember each other, but also not remember each other at the same time. This is a guessing movie. For a huge chunk of the time, you will be trying to figure out what is actually going on. Is there a villain? Who is the villain? What is holding this movie back is that there's definitely some spooky and intense things that will happen, but they take too long to get there. If they started scaring me like 15 minutes earlier, this may have made it on my best of list. Also, this is a very dialogue heavy movie, and I know lots of people might not be into talkies, especially this guy.
Talkie. No more talkie.
I don't mind them at all, though I will say some of it felt a bit forced. There's a lot of introspection and it doesn't seem natural. It's not quite the level of Shyamalan.
Jay, what health-conscious fast food purveyor did you originally solicit to buy these chicken wings you've so lovingly reheated in a minor suicidal gesture?
But still, sometimes not the best. And speaking of dialogue, I had to turn on subtitles. These Aussie accents are sometimes damn near impossible to understand. A pretty good slow burn, dialogue-heavy thriller with a solid ending. Exhuma. Exhuma is a lore-heavy Korean supernatural movie. It's got the spookies, the ghosties, the world building, the character growth and development, so why is this on my underrated list and not the best of? Well, it's not very scary.
Disappointed!
I'll admit, since I have seen some great Korean horror movies that were legit terrifying, I kinda had higher expectations of this flick, especially in the horror department. The story is about a small team of people, including a shaman and a geomancer trying to do a burial job for a family. The geomancer being the standout character because his job is super interesting. There's a lot of bad blood and ground in the entire country, so it's tough to bury the dead there and not unleash a curse on the family. The first half of the movie is kinda meh, low-level scares, which makes sense because it is building up to the heavy hitters for the second half of the movie, but they aren't that much scarier. That's really the main reason why I wouldn't be dying to watch this movie again. Very good and lore heavy with the relationship with South Korea and Japan, and that's who would like this movie. People who like movies with deep and interesting world building. The First Omen.
So, let yourself feel it, okay? Be brave.
The First Omen is the Nell Tiger-free nun movie about an immaculate conception. Not to be confused with Immaculate, the Sydney Sweeney nun movie about an immaculate conception.
Wait a minute!
What's even crazier is that they both came out in, I think, the same month. Just remember, one's got a blonde and the other a brunette, and both are out of your league.
Ow!
I did a longer review for this one on my channel and feel free to check it out. This is obviously a very similar movie to Immaculate and both definitely have its faults. The first two acts of this movie are aight. The cast is pretty stacked. And being that this is a prequel to The Omen, it's kind of hard to not think of this movie as a story that nobody was really asking for. It also kind of retcons some of the stuff from The Omen, which is never a good thing. The final act is where the real good stuff is, and that's where it takes the edge on Immaculate. The First Omen is scarier than Immaculate, and it's not even close. There are some very good scares in this movie. The last straw that really rubs me the wrong way is the ending. Like The Watchers, The First Omen has 3 endings. The first ending being the best, where it has quite a bit of oomph and could have really finished the movie ominously, and I would have been quite happy. But then we jump to the next scene, and yeah, it's depressing, but also a little cheesy, but then it's suddenly not depressing. And then the final ending sets up possible sequels that I doubt will ever happen, considering I don't really recall hearing a ton of buzz about this movie after it left theaters or dropped onto some streaming services. The kind of people who will like this movie will be people who like Nil Tiger Free and people who want to see some good scare scenes. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
The Ghostbusters are finished.
Right, well, overruled.
Sustained.
What? Oh, come on!
I know that this being on this list is a shock, but hear me out. This movie is on this list because this is a modern kids movie.
Touché.
I get that with the last movie and the over-the-top nostalgia that it was basically waterboarding its audience with, you would think that the sequel would also be for OG Ghostbusters fans. It's not. This is just a kid's movie, and if you're wanting to tiptoe your 10-year-old kid or your young teen into horror, I think this is a decent stepping stone. One that the whole family may get a little entertainment out of. There's plenty wrong with this movie.
No shit, Sherlock.
Like, too many characters, not a very impressionable villain, lots of over-the-top yelling for comedic effect. This is a family movie if you got a young family. Arcadian. Arcadian is the Nick Cage creature feature movie. Sounds like a slam dunk, right?
No!
Yeah, with Nick Cage, there are no guarantees. He's got some recent gems, but some recent stinkers. This is a middle-of-the-road type of movie. Here is why. He is clearly the biggest star in the movie, but he doesn't take on a lead role. I go over this in my longer video that I already posted on my channel. Feel free to check it out. I know I've said that a lot, but honestly, what the fuck else am I supposed to say? Anywho, Arcadian focuses more on his 2 sons. Actually, his one more elder son that's like more physical, and the other smarter thinker kind of takes a back seat. Which is a shame, because if he got more talky lines, it could have been a serious improvement on this film. There's also the fatal mistake of saying that these creatures brought the world to its knees, but also the first time we see Nick Cage encounter one, he takes it out like a small dog with a knife.
Ooh, I'm really scared.
There's also some editing issues where scenes seem to jump instead of having a smooth flow of shots. Also, a dramatic scene is topped up with very lighthearted music, basically telling you that everything is going to be okay, when we shouldn't know that. Okay, this movie is for people who really want to see some unique monsters, and these things are definitely unique. Sometimes it seems like they look different every time you see them. So yeah, I'd say the monsters are the highlight in this creature feature, which is probably the best outcome you'd want from an okay creature feature. Lowlifes.
It's time for this evening's entertainment.
Lowlifes is a wacky movie.
Go on.
Yeah, I feel like I can't say much because this movie is as over the top as it gets. So why is it not on the best of list? It's a low budget movie and it has a low budget feel. The acting, the dialogue, some of the violence all seem low budget. But the movie knows exactly what it wants to be, and that's what I enjoyed about it the most. People who like over the top violence and ridiculous movies will really get a kick out of Lowlifes. Abigail. Abigail is a violent vampire movie. I know a lot of people loved this movie and would put it on their favorites of the year list, but me, well, I guess you should know by now, sometimes I say shit just to spite y'all.
That's not true.
No, it is. He wrote it on my birthday card.
But seriously, the reason why Abigail didn't make it on my favorites of the year list can be summed up pretty simply. It was advertised as a super violent, dark movie. Problem is that the body count is too low. The cast needed to have at least 2 to 3 more people in it to more evenly space out the kill count to the time ratio. Shout out to the dead meat kill count. Once the kills happen, the first 2 people drop probably 5 minutes between the 2. But then it's like 30 minutes until the next kill.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
That is way too long. That alone would put the movie on this list and not the best of list, but on top of that, each member of this thief team that was put together has a special skill. But we very quickly find out that this was a trap. Not a spoiler, that's literally the plot of the movie. So those skills were completely irrelevant, so like, why bother showing them that they have different sets of skills? Also, if you're gonna have them, why not flesh them out more into like key points in the story? It's a good, fun, violent movie, it's just not nearly as violent and kill-tascular as I was expecting it to be. Baghead.
If you're watching this, then I'm already dead.
Baghead is a little movie about a girl inheriting a bar from her recently passed dad. But what's in the basement is the true inheritance. Baghead, a mythological shape-shifting creature that can turn into past loved ones. I'm sure plenty of people have seen this movie and shat on it, but the reason why it's here is I really liked the mythology of the monster. That's really what's holding this movie up, and I think it's worth a watch if you're a fan of creature features. Of course, you'll have to look past the bad CGI, fire, some of the dialogue is and there are a few plot holes. Yeah, not a super well-made movie, but I am a softie for creature features, so maybe I'm just too close to this one to put it on the shit list. Humane.
We must not forget that this is, above all, a human crisis.
Humane is a dystopian thriller about a future planet Earth being destroyed by overpopulation, and so in order to protect the future of the human race, humanity has to shed off 20% of the population. And this kind of mandatory labor gives birth to bald assholes running companies that keep track of the body count. I'm talking about this a-hole, Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob.
Yeah, he's a real piece of shit. This is a classic people boxed in and have to make a difficult choice scenario. It's been done 100 times before, and I don't have a problem with that kind of setting, but this isn't a super deep or thought-provoking kind of trapped in a box movie. Also, the ending leaves more questions than answers, like, how did all of this come to be? Also, why? A decent thriller, and if you want to watch a family drama and see how far it'll go, Humane might be right up your alley. Killer body count.
The devil followed me here.
The devil.
Oh, killer body count. If you're a fan of movies that are so bad they are good, killer body count will be your next fix. Kinda easy. I haven't seen too many movies that are so bad that they are good, but ever since I saw Basket Case, I've been very open to watching more. This one is about a bunch of young kids getting sent off to a purity camp. So everyone is a D-gen and a lot of the racy, man, it's been a long time since I've used that word. A lot of racy scenes linger for way too long, kind of like a shitty MTV show, blasting music and people being peeping toms for an uncomfortably long amount of time. It's also set up like a slasher movie and some of the kills are good, but some are eh. If you want to laugh at a bad movie, by the way, that's why this movie is here. I can recognize shit when I see it.
That is one big pile of shit.
So that's why it's not on the best of list, despite how much fun I had watching this. Under Paris.
Si nous ne faisons rien, votre opération de com pourrait se transformer en un véritable bain de sang.
Under Paris is yet another shit movie. Good thing is that it's so bad, it's good.
Yes! Yes! Oh, yeah!
Under Paris is a killer shark movie, and these sharks are straight up bullshit. Like the mutated walking shark from the miniseries Creature. Yeah, that thing was more believable than the sharks in Under Paris. The first half of the movie is pretty serious, even though it really shouldn't be, but the second half is where the fun begins, and I promise you, if you're patient, it will deliver. Some super annoying people get their comeuppance in the most satisfying ways possible. We also got a cop who is way too good looking. Like, this guy is a Calvin Klein model kind of looking dude, and he is the kind of cop that you know that after being a cop for like a year, he's gonna start an OnlyFans. It may be considered mean to laugh at someone because of their looks, but every time this jabroni was on TV, I couldn't help but laugh at the screen. If you want to watch a dumb, fun movie, Under Paris is the movie for you. Azrael, Angel of Death. Azrael is an interesting post-rapture kind of movie. So being a post-rapture movie is unique in itself. On top of that, people believe speech leads to sin or something like that. So they brand their throats, which I guess singes their vocal cords. So not only do people choose to not speak, they can't. Which leads to some really heartbreaking moments when people are crying out of sadness and desperation and just nothing is coming out. I wish this movie made my best of list because of the setting, but sadly it doesn't for a few reasons. First, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that nobody uses sign language or writes anything down. Eventually, people will have to communicate on some level, like a few whistles and lingering looks just aren't gonna cut it. There's also some monsters here that lead to some pretty awesome practical effects, but the monsters leave more questions than answers. And I'd say that is the biggest problem here. Since there is no communication at all, the story is very hollow. Like, I wanted more. I wanted to know our main character more. I wanted to know more about the antagonistic group. I wanted to know more about the monsters, but they are giving us nothing. It's still worth a watch, and I think people who like atmospheric horror with some carnage will really like it. Werewolves.
Uncle Wes, why can't you stay?
They need me to help them try and stop this.
Oh, Werewolves. This is yet another so bad it's good kind of movie. I'll admit, I have a huge soft spot for Frank Grillo. I mean, can you blame me?
Hey, Joe. You want to help me look?
Honestly, if I met this guy in person, the first words out of my mouth would be gentle, daddy. You need to know going in, by the way, this movie is playing in theaters, I suggest you go see it. But going in, you should know that this is a ridiculous movie. The werewolves are sometimes pretty decent looking and sometimes the rubber suits really show. The budget for this movie seems to have been spent on mostly guns and bullets. It takes a while for us to see werewolves getting shot and killed and also other, violent related things that would have been nice. I can also promise the ending will make you laugh your ass off. You may also have to take your date home if you catch my drift.
Giggity. What? Nothing, it's stupid.
Lots of different emotions will come upon you while watching this flick. Double Blind.
Without your help, none of this would be possible.
Double Blind is a movie about, well, exactly that, a double-blind drug trial. For those of you who are deep into the horror world, Double Blind is essentially the Russian sleep experiment, that pretty famous creepypasta, but in movie form. I did like this movie. Could have used a few more scares, but the ones we did get, I did like. And I also liked the mind tricks that were confusing the audience and the characters, that all is not what it seems to be. While people still have their mental faculties, the movie does the escape the room story pretty well. What holds the movie back for me is the ending. It's not as bleak as it should have been, especially since the drug company behind the trial is as powerful as fucking Umbrella. Oh, and there is this bullshit cliche that I've seen several times in movies where a car accident happens and the people wearing seatbelts get killed, but the people who aren't, don't. Like, how? Close to great, but just not quite there. Mads. Match is quite an interesting movie. A foreign, single-shot virus outbreak movie similar to the Rage virus in 28 Days Later, but not exactly the same. This is definitely a cinephile type of movie, definitely not a movie for everybody. I think what's holding this movie back is that it does jump from character to character, kind of found footage style, but no character is actually holding a camera. The first person we are introduced to, we get to know a little, and then the next person we get to know a little, and then the next person we barely get to know at all. And then the movie ends. Sometimes movies don't make my best of lists simply because I think they are a one and done, and this is a one and done for me. It's a bit entertaining, but not like super entertaining. I also would have liked to know more about the virus. Anyways, it's a movie for cinephiles. VHS Beyond. VHS Beyond is the latest iteration in the VHS franchise. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I am a big fan of the franchise. I love anthologies, I love monsters, I love short stories that only spent a few minutes on the get to know the character part, and then the rest is the good stuff. Since this is an anthology, I always judge the movie on the individual stories. I'll admit that I'm kind of setting the bar low here, because if any of the VHS movies have like one good story and the rest are alright, I'll still give the movie my blessing. Beyond implies that all of the stories are going to be about aliens, and weirdly, they're not.
You serious, Clark?
Story 1 is about 6 cops doing a brutal raid on a house that is the only lead in a bunch of missing kid cases. This one was a lot of bloody fun. Story 2 is based in India, pretty standard to get a foreign story here. Some paparazzi are following around some chick who is the latest hot shit in Bollywood. This one seemed a bit rushed, even for a short, and this one weirdly doesn't have anything to do with aliens. Story 3 is a bunch of friends skydiving and a UFO comes in direct contact with their plane. I really liked the idea behind this one, very creative, but there is some terrible CGI that's holding it back, which I still forgive only because I like the idea of the story so much. Story 4 is a bunch of PETA warriors storming the house of a professional dog groomer and caregiver and getting into way more trouble than they could have anticipated. I really like this one too, even though it has nothing to do with aliens. Story 5 is following around an independent documentarian who is, how could I best describe her?
She's a babe! Swing! What?
Yeah, this fits. Anyways, she's filming in, I guess, Nevada or maybe near Roswell or something. I don't know. Maybe they mentioned where specifically or maybe not, but she happens upon a ship, and this is also a pretty unique story that's for the cinephiles. Story 6 is the connecting story wrapping up the movie, and it does it very abruptly, and it's the weakest story, which always sucks because that's the last lingering note that we leave on, which is the reason why I think a lot of people hated on VHS 94, because the SWAT team connecting the story had terrible actors and the movie ended with them. I liked VHS Beyond. I think the PETA one might have been the best story, the skydiving is the best idea, and the police raid is the most fun. Give it a watch. I am very down for more installments in this franchise. Woman of the Hour. Woman of the Hour is based on a true story about a pretty successful serial killer back in the day. The story focuses on the events and don't follow traditional storytelling. Yes, technically there is a character that has more screen time than others, but the killer himself probably has more screen time, and we watch him jump from victim to victim, but we don't really get to know him or anything. Kind of showing us how he was able to make people comfortable around him, and then he, you know. Since women are obsessed with true crime and serial killers,
why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
I think this is kind of a chick serial killer movie to watch. Obviously not the most romantic of movies, but one that they would be interested in. Don't Move. Don't Move is a thriller about this woman who goes to do some personal stuff in the woods and crosses paths with a psycho, and one of the first things he does is he paralyzes her. Hence the title, Don't Move. Or better, Can't Move. or Tranked, or Dead Fishing It. Coming up with titles is hard, ain't it? Anyways, Don't Move has moments where you think, oh damn, this writing is actually very good and this chick is very smart and very resourceful. But then there's also some bullshit rushed moments that make no sense or things just kinda get dragged out. I would say that this is another chick movie because we got a lead actress who is pretty hot but also a bit of a badass. Milk and Cereal. Milk and Cereal is a short horror film done by the pretty popular guys at That's a Bad Idea.
Yeah, I just shit my pants.
What do you mean?
They're shit my pants.
This is the kind of idea everyone should do if they're trying to dip their toes into the horror film industry in a filmmaker's way. Horror thrives with low budgets. And what's the lowest budget story idea that you could do? A slasher. What's the lowest budget film style you could do? Found footage. And that's exactly what Milk and Cereal is. I give these guys a fair amount of props for this attempt, and it got a fair amount of chatter on the interwebs. So why is it on the underrated list? Well, it's a found footage story, but there are multiple cameras, so how did all the footage come together? Also, I commented this on the actual YouTube video, but no one seemed to respond to it, so maybe I am missing something, but towards the end of the movie, there is this big reveal, but we don't see how the people go to the location of the big reveal. It was kept a secret. Mention it to me in the comments below, please, if I was just busy choking someone or something and missed it, because I thought that's a pretty serious plot hole. Other than that, I hope the guys keep making them because this was a serious improvement on their other horror short. The Demon Disorder.
Dad?
The Demon Disorder is a Shudder flick that's not bad.
Eat shit, Derek.
Okay, it's a creature feature possession movie and it even throws in a bit of humor here and there. It's a bit of fun. What's holding it back is the script and the pacing, and it could have just been tighter. Also, you get the cliche of a monster easily killing characters that don't matter, but the second they encounter someone who matters, they just toss them aside, or don't really fight back much, or just lets the main character kill them very easily. There are a few unanswered questions, but not ones to bring down the movie a serious peg. Throw this one on if you want a casual watch until the good bloody monster stuff happens. Frogman.
People keep saying that my Frogman footage is fake.
Frogman is a low-budget indie film about a local legend monster. Shot found footage style, this kind of movie would have been right up my alley. This is very similar to the Blair Witch Project.
She was up in the air, floating.
A few friends go and try to document the local legend. What's holding this movie back is that they take too long for the good stuff to begin. The good stuff starts at the last 20 minutes of the film, and I think this movie is like an hour and 20 minutes long, and I'm telling you, we get nothing to tide us over during the first hour. We need some sprinkled in spooks. Fake outs are the real deal, it doesn't matter, but we need just a taste until the good shit happens. One more gripe is that since it is a creature feature, the creature should have been the most standout part of the movie, and they didn't make him very scary. Ow! Yeah, a bummer, but I think it's worth a watch for those who are a fan of the Blair Witch Project or even the VHS movies. Trap.
You know the butcher? The freaking nut job that goes around just chopping people up?
Trap is the latest M. Night Shyamalan movie about a serial killer trapped in a concert. I know a lot of people may be surprised that this movie didn't make the shit list. Honestly, the main reason why it's not there is the first half of the movie when the serial killer is at the concert is pretty fun. If the movie stayed there, it would have been much more solid.
But no!
We just had to leave the concert as a kind of an excuse for M. Night's daughter to have more screen time. If you're not a fan of M. Night's movies, obviously don't watch this. But if you are, just know that it does have the classic M. Night bits like dialogue that sounds like it's coming from AI.
Jay, what health-conscious fast food purveyor did you originally solicit to buy these chicken wings you've so lovingly reheated in a minor suicidal gesture?
Also, the ending is kinda bullshit. It really just fumbles with the last, I don't know, 45 minutes, so like the second half of the movie. It really is a bummer. But like I said, again, the first half is pretty solid. Beetlejuice 2.
The juice is loose.
I did a fairly sized review on my channel for this one. Beetlejuice 2 takes place quite a while after the first one. It focuses on Lydia and her daughter, and the juice, and a bit of the mom, now grandmother. This is what is holding back Beetlejuice 2. There is way too much going on. Every character has some serious struggle or villain to deal with, and it's just too much. The movie should have ditched the love interest of Lydia's daughter, and maybe even ditched Lydia's boyfriend's side story, and just focused on the dad from the first movie dying, and then Beetlejuice's ex-wife coming back to him for revenge. Admittedly, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice has some great shoes to fill, and it's a bit of fun, but it's just not a home run. They added some new characters, and they are a fun addition to the mythology, and holy shit, I just realized I said it 3 times. Okay. Next time, we're gonna be discussing the worst horror of the year, part 2. Don't forget to subscribe.
It's showtime.